Hey folks, Dust here, and I want to do something very different with this video and talk to you about something really personal, a health scare that I had this year. And kind of what inspired me to do this video is, of course, the Movember movement that's going on this month that focuses on men's health, particularly focusing on things like prostate cancer, testicular cancer, mental health, and suicide prevention. And all of these causes are great causes to support, and I hope that you'll do it. I'm going to put a link down below for the CSGO talent team Movember fundraiser that's going on. I'm certainly going to donate myself. I'm certainly going to participate in the fitness challenge, so I can't really grow a mustache. But my situation doesn't really revolve around these types of things, but I still wanted to share it because I hope that maybe it'll at least help one of you. Maybe it'll help one of you make the decision to go seek medical assistance if you are dealing with some type of persistent medical issue. And I've already shared this story privately with some fellow CSGO talent like Vince and such, and they kind of thought, hey, maybe you should share this story, that maybe it'll help some people. And I kind of agree that maybe it could help somebody. That's why I want to share it, because essentially, because I was vigilant, because I sought help when I was dealing with a persistent issue, I was able to avoid potentially having colon cancer and having something really serious to deal with long term. It's definitely a pretty crazy situation. I'm going to explain the story to you in just a second. But what I wanted to do before I explain this story is, first off, I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for any type of assistance. You know, people have been through far worse things than me, and there are many people out there who have been through just the hell, you know, that are certainly very inspiring and are heroes even to me. And, you know, I didn't go through what those people did. I luckily avoided having to go through those types of things, at least for now, and hopefully for the future, if I remain vigilant, it'll stay that way. And look, I'm not also here trying to tell people that they should run to the doctor over any little medical issue that they're having. I'm not trying to tell you to turn into a hypochondriac. There's a lot of things that you can solve on your own with rest and hydration, or just by taking better care of yourself, you know, eating better, you know, or using over-the-counter methods or something like that, right? Like, you don't need to run to the doctor every time you have the sniffle. Sometimes just the cold that's going to pass. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, once you hit that threshold where you've been dealing with it on your own for a while, if it's not getting better, if you have some type of persistent issue, if you're starting to get more symptoms or things are starting to get more serious, then you do need to eventually seek help. You know, I hate to hear about people who just think it's going to pass, that it's nothing, that it'll take care of itself, or they just want to tough it out. You don't need to. You know, if it's something minor, go ahead and take care of it. That way you can end your suffering. Or, you know, in the off chance that it is something a little bit more major or potentially something really dangerous, then you need to find out as early as possible so that you can deal with it before it develops into something far more scary. And I think that's the point I'm really trying to get at here. And, you know, I know that it can be scary, and some people are just too scared to take care of it because they're scared of what they might find out. But it's much better to know what you're dealing with and tackle it head on and deal with it as early as possible than it is just to, you know, stay in fear forever and never go get it taken care of. And look, I know there's some other really big things that can get in your way. You know, maybe you have just a busy life schedule or work schedule, dealing with a bunch of different stuff. You just don't have time. Make time. And look, there's also the financial constraint. You know, particularly for me, in my situation, you know, I have a very low-end health insurance plan because in America, you know, if you're not working for a big corporation where you do, you know, like group negotiation or collective bargaining or what have you, where you can get a really good rate for health insurance, it just kind of comes out of your check automatically. You know, unless you're doing that, it can be really difficult. You know, someone like me, I'm a freelancer, I'm a contract worker, so I just have to privately go out and get a health plan on my own. Now, I got what I could afford, which was a plan that has a really high deductible at a low monthly cost, because I was kind of gambling the fact that hopefully I wouldn't need to go see the doctor very much because, you know, typically I've usually been pretty healthy throughout my life and haven't really had to go to the doctor very much. I was kind of just banking on that. But when you have a high deductible plan, what I mean by that, for those of you who, you know, don't deal with this type of stuff in your country, high deductible health insurance plan in America means that you pay a lower monthly rate, but you have to hit your deductible before your health insurance actually kick in. You know, that means you have to come out of pocket until you exceed a certain amount of money before your health insurance comes into play. If you get a low deductible plan, that means your health insurance kicks in almost immediately, depending on how high or low it is, but it means you're going to pay a higher monthly premium, unless, again, you're part of some type of collective bargaining thing with where you work and you get a better deal because of that. So I bought what I could afford because I can't afford that much. And, you know, it did set me back a lot of money to go through all of this. But you know what? At the end of the day, your health is priceless. You know, you have to just go ahead and take care of it. You can find a way, whether it be taking out a loan or financing or paying monthly or what have you, to deal with this type of thing. So the point is that you just got to go for it. You got to get help if you need it. But now I'm going to talk to you a little bit more specifically about my story and what happened. And some of the things I'm going to talk about are a little bit gross, but I think I just want to break past that stigma of being too embarrassed to talk about things like this, because, you know, you can't be like overly embarrassed by your symptoms. You need to be able to share them and actually get help. You can't just sit there and hide from it. You need to be able to take it head on. And so if you're going to get grossed out, you can obviously skip maybe the next like 30 seconds or so, and then I'll get away from the symptoms. But essentially, starting back to late last year and all through 2018, I was dealing with, really severe abdominal pain, abdominal cramping, just tightness in the abdomen, very, very painful stuff. And then on top of that, it was just irregular bowel movements. This is where I started getting some more grosser stuff, where I was dealing with diarrhea for days on end, which you may not sound like much, but it can be kind of debilitating when you just constantly feel tired or dehydrated. And no matter what you're taking, it just doesn't seem to go away. It just kind of comes and goes in waves. Or I'd be super constipated and feel like I just couldn't go. And it was just a constant thing. And there are actually some other people in the CS community who deal with this. Like, I think Get Right has talked about this very openly. Device has had some issues like this, I think, as well, and maybe even some more severe issues. And I think even Twist recently from Team Liquid also was talking about some of this. And so I was dealing with this abdominal cramping, abdominal pain, irregular bowel movements all over the place. I was also dealing with acid reflux, something I'm still dealing with. And also on top of that, the most scary symptom I dealt with, and the one that really kind of flipped the switch, like, hey, I need to go see somebody, was the fact that I was dealing with bleeding. And sometimes bleeding can just be something like irritation or, hemorrhoids or something like that, something very minor. But for me, it just was starting to happen more regularly and more often, and it just couldn't be explained away by something simple like that anymore. So I went and saw a doctor, went through several different doctor's appointments, got referred to a gastroenterologist, a GI tract specialist, visited that, did a bunch of tests, got sent to a rheumatologist, which specializes in the immune system, did a bunch of tests with them because they didn't know what was going on. Obviously it could be something simple like celiac disease, dealing with a gluten intolerance can obviously cause a lot of irritation in your digestive tract, cause bleeding, cause you a bunch of problems. But that wasn't the case for me. I passed whatever test for celiac disease. I did find out I was lactose intolerant throughout all this, and so now I know to avoid certain dairy products that try to help me with some of my bowel movements and things of that nature. I also, through all this, have found out that I have IBS, which is something I'm just going to deal with for the rest of my life, and I just have to learn to diet better and make sure I avoid certain foods that might trigger it, but I'm still kind of experimenting on which foods causes it. It's a very tricky situation. It's also about stress management and things like that. And I was already, eating really well and working out regularly this entire year just to lose weight and get in better shape. So that certainly did help me, but it still didn't solve the problems by itself. And again, that's why I needed that medical assistance. And again, just a bunch of testing went on. And while I did come to find that I had lactose intolerance and IBS, it didn't explain away the bleeding. I eventually just had to get a colonoscopy, which I was trying to avoid because it's an expensive procedure, but I had to do it. I had to get an answer. I had to know what was going on. And with the colonoscopy, they did find a radiolized growth in my colon. And, growths can be somewhat common in your colon. People get polyps all the time. And a lot of the time, it's no big deal. They're usually very small. You may not even notice them. You may not ever get symptoms from them. And they can be benign and just not really be that big of a deal. But one of the polyps I had was rather large, as big as maybe the tip of your thumb, whereas most polyps are maybe only like a couple of millimeters big. Mine was much larger. Apparently, the doctor who did my procedure said it was the largest he had seen in someone my age. And because it was so large, it was getting severely irritated, and that's what was causing a lot of my bleeding issues. So obviously it was removed. It did come back benign, but the point is if I had left it there, because it was already growing substantially and getting to a dangerous size, had I have left it there a few more years, it very well could have developed into colon cancer. And then I would have been in a much more difficult situation than I'm in now. Now, because of what they found, I'm currently going through genetic counseling, doing different blood tests to see if I have something called juvenile polyposis syndrome. And if I do wind up having this, then this means I will have to regularly get colonoscopies because this particular genetic disorder increases your chances of getting colon cancer by like 10 to 50%. It's a pretty wide range, but it's something I'm going to, be dealing with. IBS is something I'm going to be dealing with. And really the lesson from all of this is that going and seeking help is going to help me manage my IBS and things better to not suffer as much. B, because I was vigilant, I was able to get this thing removed before it grew into something even larger and potentially grown into colon cancer and cause me way more serious problems down the line. And now I'm further being vigilant, further being proactive by doing this genetic counseling. And if it turns out that I have this genetic disorder, which I won't find out for another month or so, then I can know what I need to do, what steps I need to take to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, that I'm doing, screening when I need to, getting colonoscopies whenever I need to, what have you, to make sure I really keep my eye on this, and so that doesn't impact me long term. Or if it does develop into something, I take care of it right away. I get to it as soon as I possibly can, rather than letting it sit there and fester for years and turn into something more dangerous. And again, to sum up this video, I'm not trying to tell people that they should freak out over any little thing that's going on in their lives. Again, I'm not trying to turn you into a hypochondriac, someone who's looking up symptoms on WebMD and freaking out thinking that they have some rare genetic disorder or something like that, or that they surely have cancer or something like that. Chances are whatever medical issue you're dealing with is something minor and might go away on its own. But the point is, if it's not going away on its own, then you need to eventually go get help. If you have really good health insurance, then just go get checkups every once in a while. Check your blood levels. Make sure everything's okay. Make sure you're taking care of yourself by eating healthy, being active, all those things. If over-the-counter methods take care of your problem, then cool. You're done. But if it's not, go get help. Because if it is something minor, that doctor you go see can take care of it for you and end senseless suffering. If it is something more serious, you can catch it early and deal with it, hopefully in a way that is going to resolve it a lot more successfully than waiting and it turning into something more serious. These are the lessons I'm trying to convey. Again, I'm not looking for sympathy for my own situation. I got lucky. I'm, going to be okay for the most part. Yeah, sure, I'm going to deal with some really shitty, literally, circumstances when it comes to some of the things that, are just things that don't have a cure, but at least I avoided the big bullet, right? And hopefully I can continue to do that by staying proactive going forward. So that's really the point I'm trying to make here, is just take care of yourself. Go get help if you need it. Don't be stubborn. Don't let obstacles get in your way. Take care of yourself. And again, all these other causes the Movember movement is about, are also very important causes. Mental health is definitely something that is a stigma. That is something I've been through, that I think everyone's been through when it comes to mental health. And that's another big aspect of this. And again, I hope that that's another thing you'll go get help with if you feel that you do need help. Go get it. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. Catch you next time.